The other thing that is important to know about image capture is that the system properties that should return what the supported image capture sizes are currently does not report any values in both the original Instinct as well as the S30. The reason it does that is it's trying to hint to the developer that you should use the default settings. But unfortunately, if you use the default settings, then you can't really take advantage of the fact that it can support different image capture sizes and different viewfinder sizes. So this sample here will show you what the appropriate sizes are. Samsung has made a change into the S30 code base so that going forward in future maintenance releases, those proper sizes will be queryable. Next thing we're going to look at is the ability to rotate the actual canvas. I know this is one that we've had many people ask about. How can I take my application and rotate the screen so that I can flip my phone or have my user flip the phone over into landscape mode? Here we've provided a sample. It's a pretty simple API call. The only thing that's sort of your catch here is that this only works today on canvas screens. So if you're using a basic frame as part of the Instinct widget library, the screen will rotate, but you will only have about 3/4 of the screen to paint with. There'll be, if you're holding your phone in landscape mode on the right side, there'll be an area about 1/4 of the screen on the right side will not be accessible to you. So that means your user will end up having sort of a blank black area there. So if you want to do a rotation, you're going to want to again use Canvas for that, so that you can take advantage of the full screen. That said, there may be some scenarios where it's okay to not paint the full screen because you do want to take advantage of the Instinct widget library, widgets, and things like that. In that scenario, you just have to be cognizant of the fact that you don't have the full screen, and make sure that you're not assuming that you have the full height of the screen, because possibly you could be placing widgets towards the bottom of the screen, which in landscape mode would actually be off the screen. Again, the list feature of the Instinct widget library will work in the landscape mode, but it will not fill up the full screen, and part of your list will be chopped off at the bottom because it was not designed to work in that landscape mode. If you chose to use the list in that mode, the key thing that you would want to remember is you would want to pack the bottom of your list with, I can't remember the right number, but I want to say 3 list items at the bottom of your list. Maybe they're just blank ones, so that when your user scrolls the list, those 3 items will be the last ones at the bottom that are painted off the screen, and that will allow them to actually see your last item. Otherwise, the last item would be painting off the screen. But that should be fairly easy for you to handle. Just when you're calling the API to turn from landscape to portrait, and in that case, you can add or remove those items from the list. JSR 120, the ability to send and receive SMS messages, we've now opened that up, so you can do scenarios where you send basic text messages to other friends and users, or you could actually do phone-to-phone, application-to-application messages. We do have a caveat with the ability to receive messages. As of right now on the S30, you can only receive incoming SMSs if your application is actively running. The push registry capability currently does not launch the application or automatically launch the application if it's not running unless it's a signed app. We're working with Samsung to address that going forward, but we don't have a timeline as of now as when that will be addressed. But it is part of our goals to make that so that any developer can wake up an application using an incoming SMS. For 120, I also want to note that we do have a really good white paper on our website. It's not under the Instinct section, but if you go into the developer.sprint.com website and look under Develop J2ME, there's a paper called Intro to WMA. It's actually a zip that's got a PDF with a pretty good white paper on explaining the ins and outs of sending and receiving, and then also it includes 2 code samples for both sending and receiving messages. So a couple more topics on open. Bluetooth, Jay mentioned this already, Bluetooth JSR 82 is open. So you can utilize that whether you're doing the device-to-device type of communication or trying to tether up with like a barcode scanner or a printer or some other type of interesting peripheral. There's also, under the Instinct section of our website, there's a really good Bluetooth white paper that explains sort of the ins and outs of Bluetooth, as well as it has a code sample inside of it for L2 CAP that shows it's got two versions of an app, a client and a server, so it'll show you easily how to talk between two phones. The last piece I want to mention on Open is one that we haven't really publicized too much, but I think it's going to be one that's really interesting to see how developers incorporate this, is the ability to use some of our URI schemes. Most of these schemes were put into the phone not for public use, but for sort of intercommunication between the different applications. For example, like our Sprint navigation app and some of the aspects that it supports. We've decided to expose these publicly to see what other developers can use them for. So if you look under our Instinct section, you'll see a document. If I remember correctly, it's an Excel spreadsheet, and it lists all the different URI schemes. But just to give you an example of some of the schemes, from your application, you could start the Sprint navigation application and provide it an address and say, please do your navigation thing for me. You could start the Sprint navigation app and ask it to display a map on your behalf. You could open the contact manager in the mode where you're going to add a contact. This would be similar if you've played with either the Sprint navigation app or the live search app that's on the original Instinct. This will be similar to how they work once you do a search and you say, okay, I want to save that to my address book. This is the same scheme that it uses. It'll open the address book into edit mode for you and pre-populate some values. Also, you can start the native SMS composer. You can throw it over, what the actual two fielders you're sending to, and then let your user actually compose an SMS using the native composer versus you building your own full, sort of SMS composer. And then one of the last ones is that it does is it'll actually let you open the native camera application. So if there are some limitations that you can't work around using camera inside of your Java app, you can open the native camera app and let the user take a picture there. Then using some sort of other tricks with File.io, you can then go into the SD card and then try to find the image they took based on timestamps and see what the last images they took with and try to bring that into your application.